Welcome back to Recaps Hubs. Today, I'll present a recap of a 2011 film titled The Intouchables, which falls into the genres of biography, comedy, and drama. Spoiler alert. Proceed with caution. In the streets of Paris, Driss, the protagonist, is driving his employer, Philippe, through the city. To alleviate their boredom during traffic, Driss decides to break the speed limit, maneuvering through traffic and disregarding traffic signs. This reckless driving catches the attention of the police, and Driss makes a bet of €100 that he can evade them. However, the police ambush them from both sides after they pass under a bridge. Driss remains unfazed and confidently bets €200 that he can secure an escort. The police instruct Driss to exit the car, and he begins to act offended, claiming that Philippe is in urgent need of medical attention. The officers discover evidence supporting Driss's claim when they find a wheelchair in the truck. As they approach Philippe, they witness him feigning convulsions. Acknowledging the emergency, the police forgive Driss for his speeding and offer to escort them to the hospital. To celebrate winning the bet, Driss plays September by Earth, Wind and Fire and shares a smoke with Philippe once the police depart. Driss assures Philippe that he will handle the situation and drives them away before the hospital staff can find them. This unique friendship had its origins several months ago when Philippe and his assistant, Magali, conducted interviews to find a new caregiver. Unfortunately, none of the applicants provided satisfactory answers to their interview questions. However, Driss, disregarding his assigned interview slot, barges in to request signed papers confirming his rejection, which he needs to claim unemployment benefits. Driss is straightforward and somewhat rude, even attempting to flirt with Magali. Despite his unorthodox behavior, Philippe finds him amusing and invites him to return the next day for his signed papers. Driss returns to his modest neighborhood and attempts to take a bath while being constantly bothered by his younger siblings. His sister Mina, who is slightly older and more responsible, assists him in managing the situation, enabling him to complete his bath in time. While waiting for their mother to arrive, Driss observes his brother Adama exiting a suspicious car. When questioned, Adama simply claims he was at school before quickly leaving with his bag, further fueling Driss's suspicions. In the evening, their mother arrives and presents Driss with a stolen Faberge egg, pretending he had been on vacation when questioned about his absence. However, she is displeased with his sudden return, having disappeared for 6 months without any communication. She insists that he leaves and never returns, as she has other children to care for. Driss spends the night socializing with friends from his neighborhood, smoking and enjoying snacks. The following day, he returns to Philippe's residence to collect his papers. Yvonne, the housekeeper, greets him and provides a tour of the house while explaining Philippe's daily routine. She also shows Driss the room assigned to him, complete with his own bathroom. Driss becomes fixated on the bathtub before being directed to meet Philippe, who presents him with the signed papers and a job opportunity. Driss accepts a 1-month trial, and Philippe skeptically bets that he won't last 2 weeks. After settling into his new room, Driss learns how to care for Philippe, including stimulating his legs, assisting with the wheelchair, and aiding with showering and changing clothes. Some tasks, such as helping Philippe put on high stockings and cleaning his buttocks after using the bathroom, initially make Driss uncomfortable. Despite his complaints and resistance, he eventually accepts these responsibilities as part of his job. One evening, while enjoying a snack on the roof, Driss is interrupted by Elisa, Philippe's daughter, and her boyfriend Bastien, who seek a private space to spend time together. Driss kicks them out after refusing to share his beer. Gradually, Driss adapts to the daily routine of caring for Philippe. Although he initially makes mistakes, such as handing Philippe the phone instead of placing it near his ear or forgetting the baby monitor while bathing, he learns from these experiences. Organizing Philippe's mail becomes a part of his duties, opening most letters but respecting a set of private ones that he is prohibited from reading. When Driss discovers a flyer advertising female escorts, he begins a separate file for them instead of discarding the flyers, as Philippe suggests. Amidst the caregiving responsibilities, Driss also ensures he enjoys himself. He persistently flirts with Magali, although his attempts are unsuccessful, and occasionally arranges encounters with escorts. One morning, Yvonne reprimands Driss for being late and stumbles upon dangerous weapons in his bag, although she chooses not to comment on them at the time. Driss's task for the day is to drive Philippe around. Refusing to treat him like cargo, Driss opts for one of the luxurious cars that are seldom used. Initially skeptical, Philippe gradually becomes excited about the idea of a faster and more enjoyable ride, even though Yvonne disapproves. As they attempt to leave the building, they encounter a neighbor parked in their designated spot, disregarding the "forbidden" sign on the door. Driss confronts the neighbor, grabbing him by the shirt and threatening him until he moves the car. Philippe is impressed by Driss's actions, while Yvonne once again disapproves. During a museum visit, Philippe plans to purchase a piece of artwork that Driss deems unworthy due to its simplistic nature. Later, Philippe meets a relative who expresses concerns about Driss's potential for violence and reveals his criminal record. However, Philippe values Driss for his lack of pity and their ability to engage in light-hearted banter. Driss joins Philippe as he dictates a letter to Eleanor, his pen pal, and Magali serves as the intermediary. Yvonne, taking advantage of the private conversation, switches off the baby monitor and reveals that Philippe and Eleanor have never met in person, maintaining a purely epistolary relationship. Driss playfully teases Yvonne about the gardener's interest in her. While Driss is on the rooftop, he hears unusual sounds through the baby monitor, indicating Philippe's difficulty breathing. Unable to ignore him, Driss rushes to his room and offers comforting words and a damp cloth to alleviate Philippe's distress. Eventually, Philippe falls asleep, only to wake up moments later, requesting fresh air. Driss promptly places Philippe in his wheelchair, covers him with blankets, and takes him for a stroll by the river. During their nighttime excursion, Philippe reveals that medication can only alleviate his pain to a certain extent, as he sometimes experiences phantom pain. Philippe also admits that due to his physical condition, he is unable to provide pleasure to a woman but finds satisfaction in having his ears massaged due to their sensitivity. When the phantom pain threatens to return, Driss shares a joint with Philippe, initially met with skepticism but ultimately enjoyed by both. Subsequently, they visit a restaurant, engaging in playful banter while sharing a meal. Philippe opens up about his life, mentioning meeting his wife while they were students. After marrying, his wife experienced multiple miscarriages and was diagnosed with an incurable, terminal illness. They adopted Elisa as a result. Philippe's love for competitions, extreme sports, and speed led him to paragliding, but a crash caused by bad weather resulted in his spinal injury. Philippe considers the loss of his wife as his true handicap rather than being confined to a wheelchair. After exchanging stories and jokes, Philippe realizes that Driss has successfully completed his one-month trial and officially hires him. However, Driss must first return the stolen Faberge egg, which held sentimental value as it was a gift from Philippe's late wife. Each year, she would present him with a Faberge egg, and he has accumulated 25 eggs, representing their time together. The following day, Driss meets Mina, his sister, after school. She expresses her frustration with his lack of response to her messages, except for the request to locate the egg. Mina also informs him that the police have been calling their home. Subsequently, Driss visits Adama, his brother, who reveals that he was caught with 30 grams of an undisclosed substance. Driss attempts to invite Adama to lunch, but he declines and returns to the suspicious car from before. Later, Driss is present during Philippe's dictation of a letter to Eleanor. Finding the prose monotonous, Driss suggests a more direct approach. He discovers Eleanor's phone number in one of the letters and takes it as a sign to call her, compelling Philippe to engage in a verbal conversation with her. Their conversation goes well, leading to frequent phone calls. Just before attending the opera, Driss amuses himself by mocking the costumes. The subsequent day, Driss persuades Philippe to exchange pictures with Eleanor and chooses a photograph of Philippe in his wheelchair. Driss, while painting, is interrupted by Elisa, who enters his room in tears after consuming some of Yvonne's pills. Elisa explains that her boyfriend, Bastien, broke up with her and insulted her, prompting her to ask Driss to speak with him. Driss agrees to help, but with a condition. Meanwhile, Philippe shows his relative the painting created by Driss, successfully convincing him to purchase it for 11,000 euros. Driss returns to the dining room and converses with Yvonne, who reveals that Magali is currently in a rocky relationship with someone named Fred. Driss becomes hopeful upon hearing this. As the party begins to wind down, Philippe requests Driss to listen to important classical music pieces, but Driss can only respond with humor. Following the conclusion of the live music, Driss takes out his iPod and plays Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind and Fire, igniting an impromptu dance session in the middle of the room. Philippe is entertained by the spectacle. On the day of his scheduled date with Eleanor, Yvonne and Driss help Philippe select an outfit. Since Yvonne will accompany Philippe to the date, Driss uses his day off to visit Bastien, threatening him until he agrees to apologize to Elisa and bring her croissants daily. Driss also requests that Bastien fix his hair. Subsequently, Driss observes his mother from a distance while she is at work. At the restaurant, Yvonne and Philippe patiently await Eleanor, who arrives significantly late. After an hour of waiting, Philippe decides to leave, calling Driss to arrange their departure. Unbeknownst to Philippe, Eleanor arrives at the restaurant just as they leave. That same night, Philippe takes Driss on a private plane trip and presents him with the money he earned from selling the painting. Driss feels immense joy. The next morning, they reach the countryside, and Philippe insists on paragliding, persuading Driss to join him. Initially reluctant, Driss eventually embraces the experience. Upon returning home, Adama awaits Driss and receives a scolding after Driss notices the scars on his face. Adama, however, refuses to disclose the details of his life, leading Driss to confine him to his room while he calls Mina to alleviate her concerns. Driss then assists Philippe in preparing for bed, but Philippe isn't yet sleepy. Philippe shows Driss a painting, engaging him in conversation about his family. Initially hesitant, Driss eventually reveals that Adama is not his biological brother, and their parents are actually his aunt and uncle. Driss was brought from Senegal at the age of 8 when his aunt couldn't conceive. Initially named Bakary Baysari, he was given the nickname Idris, which later became Driss due to other children sharing the same name. His aunt miraculously became pregnant, and after his uncle's death, more children joined the family. In a similar manner to Driss's conversation about Elisa, Philippe advises Driss to provide discipline for Adama. Consequently, Philippe fires Driss so he can prioritize his familial responsibilities, emphasizing that he cannot spend his entire life caring for an elderly man. The next morning, Bastien arrives with a daily croissant and a new hairstyle, and Driss packs his belongings, preparing to leave. Magali bids him farewell, introducing him to her significant other, Fred. Driss discovers that Magali is not interested in men and gives up his pursuit. Before departing, he returns the baby monitor to Yvonne, teasing her for the deception regarding Magali. In return, Yvonne hands Driss the escort file he had started, and he discards it, keeping one photo for himself. Outside, Driss encounters a car blocking the entrance. Despite no longer working there, he insists that the driver moves the car based on principles. Later, Driss and Adama pick up their mother from the train station. Meanwhile, at Philippe's house, he shares dinner with his new caretaker, who is dull and uninteresting. Displeased, Philippe leaves without eating, and since Yvonne is out on a date, there is no one to reprimand him. Driss resumes his former life, spending time with his friends and dissuading the suspicious car occupants from bothering Adama. In a job interview that initially requires more experience than he possesses, Driss impresses the employer with his pragmatism and art knowledge acquired while working for Philippe, ultimately securing a job as a driver. Philippe remains dissatisfied with his new caretaker and is consistently in a bad mood. One night, Philippe refuses assistance from the house staff for his phantom pain, leading Yvonne to call Driss for help. This results in their encounter with the police, leading to a chase and eventual escort to the hospital. Following this adventure, Driss drives Philippe to the coast, where the sight of the sea calms Philippe. At a later time, Driss trims Philippe's overgrown beard before taking him to a restaurant for lunch. Driss leaves, as someone else will keep Philippe company that day. He wishes Philippe luck and returns the stolen Faberge egg. Philippe begins to worry about being alone until he sees his date arrive, Eleanor, who shows no concern for Philippe's wheelchair. In reality, the real Count Philippe Pozo di Borgo now resides in Morocco, having remarried and fathered 2 daughters. The real Driss, whose name is Abdel Yasmin Selou, owns a business and is married with 3 children. Both men remain close friends to this day.